What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Thank you for being patient with us. Hit the like button if you could. You may not like the recap screen because while Buckets went 2-0, we missed 3 in baseball for a 2-3 day overall. Orioles got absolutely waxed. Guardians had something to say for a win, and so did the Padres, but they don't get across the pay line there. But 2-3, not a terrible day. But honestly, we got to do better. We got to have winning records on this show. And we've been doing that lately. We're going to do it again today on the Wednesday show with the stars of the show, which of course include all of you in the chat: Reed Phillips, Brad Morris, Brad Betts, Joseph Rackett, Brian Smith, Doug Horner. But of course, it also includes Martin Green, Propstarz, and Amags. Proppy, I got to start with you, my friend. Because we know it's very much football season along with soccer season and baseball season. You weren't on yesterday's show. A lot of reaction to Philadelphia, Atlanta. I just want to get your reaction, not to that game, and Martin Green shaking his head as he's a Philly fan as well. Not to that game, but the state of the Philly franchise. Is the whole world overreacting? Is Philly crumbling before our eyes, or are we still having a positive outlook, you as a Philadelphia Eagles fan?
Still a positive outlook, Sia. It is week 2 in the NFL. Minuscule sample size, really too early to make any sort of determinations, particularly when you're adjusting to life with a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, playing without your alpha wide receiver one. Personnel on both sides of the football. Obviously, a disappointing loss in devastating fashion, but I still believe the Eagles certainly can finish strong. It's not about how you start. Obviously, it's about how you finish. The Eagles proved that last year with the late season meltdown. So I'm still extremely bullish on the roster. Obviously, you want this sort of stuff to happen early in the year versus later in the year. Hopefully, this loss doesn't end up costing them when it comes to winning the division or possible seeding in the playoffs. But I still think that there's a long way to go in the season. We'll see how they respond week 3. That will tell us a lot as far as their makeup is concerned, how you respond to a loss in that fashion. But still very bullish on the long-term outlook of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, they could lose to the Saints. That line is flipped from, I think the summer line was the Eagles were favored by 3.5, and now they're basically 2.5 point dogs. But I'll say this, they're winning the NFC East. I'm sorry, the Cowboys just aren't good enough. Washington is not there yet, and we know what the Giants are. So have no fear. The Philly will be in the playoffs, and we know with the NFL, it's usually who's the healthier team around playoff time, not who the best team is. And we've seen that already with an absolute war of attrition with some of these teams, namely this Rams team that I bet against yesterday, putting out a play on the Niners -7. Hey, Max, real quick, before we get to Martin Green's soccer plays, I got to ask you, because you're wearing the Yankees hat, and you catch a lot of heat in this chat from a lot of people who are Yankees haters. I'm kind of one of them. With all of that said, it looks like y'all have you're heading towards locking up the AL East. Your thoughts?
It looks like that, and actually, if the Yankees win tonight, they will officially clinch a playoff berth. I think, obviously, at this point, we all knew they'd be making the playoffs just based on their standing, but technically, the win tonight would do that. So, got to rock the Yankee hat. Hey, great win last night, and I got to play for us, or I'll even give you a couple plays on the Yankees game for tonight.
All right, Martin Green, were you able to catch that Eagles-Falcons game, by the way? Your reaction real quick before you give out your 2 soccer picks.
It was a devastating result, as Proppy mentioned. I didn't finish it because you have to stay up really late to watch them over here. But I watched the opening stages, and I wasn't particularly impressed with what I saw. And then caught the rest in the morning, and ended in brutal fashion. But as they say, it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. And while it was a bad day at the office, there's still plenty of time for them to turn things around. And I still think they'll clinch that division pretty.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the outlook for sure. I think Buckets is in the chat. So, Martin, he's going to be listening to your 2 soccer picks. So perhaps now is the time, my friend.
Yeah, well done, Buckets. I'm going 2-0 yesterday. We had a good day in soccer yesterday. I got Real Madrid -1.5 with site picks, and I think I had Sporting Lisbon to beat Lille as well. So hopefully we can keep it going today. And I'm looking at Borussia Dortmund. I do think that they should be able to pick up an away win against Club Brugge today. They were terrific in the Champions League last season. They went all the way to the final. They got the better of PSG, AC Milan, and Newcastle in the group stage. Beat the likes of Atletico Madrid, PSV Eindhoven, and Paris Saint-Germain in the knockout stage. They're a really good team. They had a pretty strong summer in the transfer market, and they've made a great start to the new season. 2 wins and a draw from 3 games so far. I think they should just have too much quality for Club Brugge to handle. I know they're on the road, but I really like odds of +100 on a straight money line win for Dortmund. I got +105 yesterday, so the line is going in, but +100 still looks like a great price to me. So I'm grabbing that. And I've got some other site picks on SportsLine if you have a look. But while here, I just wanted to highlight Arsenal, who are playing tomorrow. They delivered a really impressive performance in their 1-0 win against Tottenham in Sunday's North London derby. They're going to now welcome key midfielder Declan Rice back from suspension. He's going to be fresh for the game. I think he could drive the Gunners to victory over Atalanta, who have made a really poor start to the season. They've conceded 9 goals in their last 3 games. They look really leaky at the back, and I think Arsenal should have enough firepower to capitalise. So I've got Arsenal moneyline at -115. If you want a bit more value, Arsenal under 4.5 goals at plus money. Looks great to me.
All right. I like both of the picks. If you want to make those picks, go to BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to get to Propstarz picks. We're already getting into NFL, and I noticed Rick Funcannon says in the chat, Proppy, love that 2-unit play you've got on SportsLine for the Thursday game. It's on the move, so got to get it early. Nice tip, Rick. We'll tell you if you're – I'm sure almost everybody in here is a member of SportsLine, but if you're not, I'll tell you on the show how to do it while getting 60% off the annual plan. But for now, before we get to Proppy, we got to hear a quick message from our partners.
A Quiet Place Day 1 is now streaming on Paramount+. It's thrilling, terrifying. It will make your heart pound out of your chest. A Quiet Place Day 1, now streaming.
All right, we are back on the Early Edge presented by BetMGM. Proppy, before I get to your picks, and I know Amags has a couple of picks for us, but Amags, I do want to drop a couple of questions from the chat because I don't want to have the whole end of the show be MLB questions. But because you are kind of the strikeout guy, we've got a few from Jeff Sternberg and D. Johnson. Bryce Miller, 7+ Ks at +170. Jeff says seems free. Interesting. And then there's a question from D. Johnson. Schwellenbach over 5.5 Ks, Steele over 5.5 Ks. And I just threw a lot at you, but do any of those pitchers in your research, did any of them come up in the strikeout department?
So I think I like Schwellenbach more than Steele, although Steele's been a little bit better with the strikeouts of late. The at least to me, the Oakland lineup does kind of give me like a little bit of pause. So 5.5 there. I don't see like too much value. I think the Schwellenbach one against Cincy is pretty interesting because he had 5.5, probably a number that's a little bit depressed just from like some of the recent outings he's had, but obviously huge upside we've seen earlier in the year. So I think interesting. I'd probably go Schwellenbach over Steele there. And then Jeff hates the Yankees. So anything against the Yankees, he just throws it out. I don't know exactly how serious he is with that. If you remember, he's the same person that said
that's right.
Mackenzie Gore over 3.5 strikeouts in the first inning against the Yankees, right?
Yes.
So anything he says, it may be a joke. I'm not 100% sure. I actually will touch on Miller in my picks, though.
I actually completely forgot that was from Jeff, who was a noted New York Yankee hater. All right. Well, Propstarz, this week, I'm not going to say you hate, but you certainly don't like Aaron Jones to rush for a ton of yards. Talk to us about that.
Indeed, Theo. Yeah, I'm fading running back Aaron Jones here, going under 52.5 rushing yards for the Vikings running back here. I like this play for a variety of reasons. This is also on the move. We got this out to SportsLine subscribers at 54.5. I'd play this down to 49.5 personally. I have a significant edge as far as my personal model is concerned. I have this projected at 45 rushing yards. But yeah, this is a tough spot for Aaron Jones. First and foremost, a difficult matchup against a Houston run defense, which is elite. Something that's carried over from last season. Houston had an excellent rush defense last year. This year, they look every bit as good, but possibly improved in that department. Absolutely shut down the Bears' rushing attack. DeAndre Swift, I believe, 14 carries for 18 yards. Also, week 1, Jonathan Taylor held to under 50 rushing yards, 48 rushing yards. Both running backs, DeAndre Swift and Jonathan Taylor, held to sub 3.0 yards per carry. We saw last week Aaron Jones get dinged up in the second half. He's a back that's about to turn 30 years old. He's had durability concerns over the last few years, missed a ton of games. You also have the emergence of Ty Chandler in the backfield, who was a far more effective back last week against San Francisco, where Aaron Jones really struggled. Ty Chandler had quite a few more rushing yards and out-carried Aaron Jones as well, had 10 carries to Aaron Jones's 9 carries in that matchup. I also think Aaron Jones is primarily going to be deployed as a pass catcher on third downs. I think he's going to be in an even rotation at best with Ty Chandler for early down work. And then again, he's going to be primarily utilized on obvious passing downs and third down. So yeah, difficult matchup. Starting to see touches as well to Ty Chandler, who looks like he's got plenty of juice. Aaron Jones already dinged up as well. And again, this Houston front seven is elite in my opinion. So this is a great spot to fade Aaron Jones at 52.5 rushing yards. I think the numbers frankly should be set at 45.5. So significant edge here as far as the present number is concerned. I'd play it down to 49.5 yards.
Yeah, this is interesting. We have a lot of synergy here because I broke down 4 to 5 games last night, Propstars, and one of them, I looked at this game specifically, and I wasn't going to take Aaron Jones under rushing yards necessarily. I mean, I hadn't gotten that far, but I was going to take his longest rush under, and it's because of the potential lack of opportunities, the Houston Texans defense, and that lack of opportunities is born from Ty Chandler's emergence in terms of getting some of these carries. So I don't know what that line is set at right now. It's probably 11.5 to 12.5, probably not as high as 13.5. But if it's 12.5, I'm definitely taking the under there, and I would consider it at 11.5. I see you nodding in agreement there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just at this stage of Aaron Jones's career, not a lot of explosive runs, in my opinion. I know Ty Chandler being a favorite of yours, he looks to have a lot more juice, especially on early downs. So, yeah, I don't see Aaron Jones receiving more than 10 to 12 carries as long as both backs are healthy in this matchup. Also, that's in a neutral game environment, too. So there are so many ways, in my opinion, that Aaron Jones could struggle on the ground. I think both looks fading him are very sharp.
No, I'll say this too. I think the Vikings are a sneaky play against the spread at +2.5 against a Texans team that everybody absolutely loves for good reason. So something to consider there. I haven't put that play in quite yet, but it was something I was considering. Speaking of plays, Chris Kish, shout out. We got some F1 stuff. He says, here's a prop for the race this weekend. Under 17.5 classified finishers at +125. There's literally never been a Singapore GP without a safety car. Should hit this quite easily. I got to be honest, I didn't understand the last part of what Chris Kish said, but I know he breaks down F1 pretty intensively. So +125, certainly like that. I'm going with a +120. We're going to golf. We're going to the BMW PGA Championship here. This is on the DP World Tour, so it's not something that's going to create a lot of buzz on this side, but I still like some first-round leaders, which I might tweet out later once I narrow the field down there. But I like this 3-ball for round 1. Shane Lowry +120 over Robert McIntyre and Jesper Svensson. Svensson's been actually pretty good lately, but I don't think he's the quality of Shane Lowry or Robert McIntyre. And when I look at Shane Lowry's history on this course in Wentworth specifically, and when I look at his weighted tee to green over the last 36, 40, 50 rounds, he does outclass Robert McIntyre. So I'm going to keep the analysis short here, but I do think +120 is a pretty good number for a guy who's got good history at this event and who is just simply playing better than the other two. So plus 120, round 1 3 ball. It's plus 120, plus 115, depending on where you look. And if I narrow down my first round leader field, I will tweet that out for this. By the way, starts in the middle of the night, okay? Because it's over in London, over where near where Martin Green is. So if you want to get this bet in, you got to get it in today because it'll probably be finished by the time we start the early edge tomorrow. All right, Amags, a lot of baseball in the chat, but you've got 2 official picks for us. You got it.
2 official picks, and I do have to say there's some great stuff going on in the chat that I've been reading here. I did have a question about the up 2 promo on I believe it's DraftKings. So the money line up 2. I think I'm just looking at the Reds plus 130, the home team. Jake Junis actually has been pretty good, and Schwellenbach, as we've seen of late, has been giving up some runs. So that could be a nice little up 2 at plus 130. But I do have 2 plays here for you, going with Juan Soto over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, minus 130 on MGM. And as you guys know, I go to MGM for pretty much every single one of these hit, run, RBI. Again, another prop that was 5 or 10 cents lower on MGM than it was on DraftKings or any of the other ones. So I'm happy to be here at minus 130. I think there's some value, probably should be closer to minus 150. And simply put, last night, the home run for Juan Soto. We have a nice little track record here in that one game where they faced off with Miller. Soto had 2 home runs, and Miller actually gave up 3 home runs in that start at Yankee Stadium, one of which being to Aaron Judge as well. So I think Judge at a very similar price, 1.5 hit, run, RBI. I'm going to play both of them to go over. But officially, Juan Soto, because the lefties have really been the ones of late that have been hurting Miller. Righties, I have to give him some props, give him tip of the cap. He's been good against those righties, but the lefties are where we've seen some issues. And as we saw with the strikeouts, and the question there hasn't been striking the lefties out at a rate that we've seen on the right side. So you're going to get a heavier lefty lineup. I would even I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Verdugo in there again. So another low strikeout rate from the left side. I think it could really hurt the chances of going over 5.5. I'd rather not be on the under, just probably fade it altogether. Second play here, and I think that this is another one where I posted on the website, but it might be a little bit risky. So kind of chop around, try to find the best price. On this one, again, MGM had a really nice price for us, and I think it's another 20 to maybe 30 cent discount here. Tanner Houck over 4.5 strikeouts, and Houck last time out scratched like an hour before the start with some shoulder fatigue. They said the day prior to a start he felt great, and then the day of his start he felt a little bit of fatigue. I'm not really exactly sure how to interpret that, but I searched high and low. I could not find any info about Alex Cora saying he'd be on a pitch count or anything like that. He's obviously missed some time since he missed his last start. So this extended rest period, I think, could certainly help that, shoulder fatigue, whatever it may have been. Cora also sounded like the health was really not an issue in the recent interview. He was actually sounded pretty excited to have Houck get back out there. And in this matchup against the Rays, you're going to, one of the games you're going to have here that's in a controlled environment. It'll be indoors. It'll be against a team that does chase pitches out of the zone. And we've seen Houck this year use that sweeper, that split finger, that sinker that are kind of diving out of the zone to collect those strikeouts. So at 4.5 here, you're only going to need the 5th one. I think he can push it to 5 innings at minimum. So I'm going to take Houck over 4.5 strikeouts against the Rays tonight.
All right. Absolutely love that. Big fan of Houck this season for the most part. Martin, we've got a couple of soccer questions. It looks like you're responding to in the chat. I do want to mention Brad Betts. He's probably put a lot of other stuff in here, but he says, I feel like PSG versus Girona could hit 6 goals today if it gets started early. And then there's a question from Kirk, which you may or may not have answered, but you may as well answer for everybody. What do you think of Haaland? 2 goals, Martin, especially with new format. Your response to that or any of the other questions you may have fielded in the chat?
I do think that PSG should be too strong for Girona. They were the surprise package of La Liga last season. They played really, really well, but they've already lost 4-1 to Barcelona and 3-0 to Atletico Madrid in the opening weeks of the current campaign. Lost a few key players in the summer, and I've been pretty impressed with PSG in the post-Mbappe era. So quite like kind of PSG minus 1.25 in that game. But yeah, I do agree that it could be a high-scoring one. They're not the most solid team defensively. I quite like Haaland to score at any time. I'm not sure what the actual odds are, but Haaland anytime goal scorer is a no-brainer if you can get decent odds. Personally, I don't ever bet on a player to score twice because that just seems a bit too much for me. You never know the way he's been playing, but anything can happen in these games. He could be taken off. If they're winning, he could be taken off at 60 minutes or something. So I would stay away from that personally. But yeah, Haaland score anytime is good if you can get a decent price on it.
Yeah, it looks like Brad Betts has the price in there at -115. How do you feel about that, Martin?
I like it. Yeah, I mean, Inter are decent. They're a good team. I mean, it finished 1-0 to Man City when these teams met in the Champions League final about 15 months ago. So Haaland was pretty quiet there, but I think this should be a bit more of an open, entertaining game. Yeah, it's a great set of odds on Haaland when you consider he's just been scoring goals for fun lately. So yeah, I'll back it. I'll go with that.
Amags, go ahead.
So just real quick, David Talk, he asked once and then he put it in all caps to ask again. I want to make sure we at least touch on this. Dodgers and Cubs each -1. I know we've now got the ability to post the -1 lines, those alternate, instead of going with like home team -1.5 on the run line, you can take the -1. It's kind of like a split between putting all your eggs in just the money line basket or putting all your eggs in the run line baskets. You're splitting that a little bit. And generally for like two teams like that, Dodgers, Cubs, we've seen Cubs start to hit a ton. Dodgers, we know, have a potent lineup. Like the odds, you'd have to push some numbers to really see if it would make sense. But the odds are that those teams are not winning by 2, or they're winning by 2 or more runs when you think that they're going to have a good game like that. So I don't necessarily dislike that. Like I said, you'd have to run some numbers to see if it makes sense numbers wise, but I don't dislike that look at all. I'll look for it here. There was one other question though, Sia. I'll look for it real quick.
Was it, well, while you're looking, there was a question because you have that Houck play, Red Sox money line or Red Sox first 5. Like, do you just not want to target Pepio? I mean, I know you're not playing the sides usually anyway, but just any thoughts on the Red Sox to win that game?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot that goes on with sides and totals that when you slim it down to like just one player's performance, I think it's a lot easier, but that's in any sport with the props. So the plus 100, I'm usually never going to tell you not to play something that's plus money if you like it, regardless of how the numbers are. When you're spending the -150, maybe I'll try to talk some sense into you, but the plus 100, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah, I like Pepio though. I do think he's a solid pitcher. You do have the Red Sox who are in the middle of needing to win every game though. So I could see that team maybe being a little bit more hungry, and Pepio, recently, I think he had a really short outing. So you're kind of not knowing what you're going to get, maybe some bullpen. So I don't mind getting the plus money on the Red Sox side.
Okay. Absolutely love it. Let's take a look at the recap screen, and then I'll remind you about some programming coming up today and tomorrow. I've got a round 1 3-ball again. This starts sort of in the middle of the night over here. Shane Lowry plus 120 over Robert McIntyre and Jesper Svensson. That's the BMW PGA Championship. Really the only thing going on in golf this week. A pretty big tournament with some pretty big names, including the likes of Rory McIlroy, Martin Green, Borussia Dortmund money line plus 100 and Arsenal money line -115, and Propstarz Aaron Jones under 52.5 rushing yards at -120. Amags Juan Soto over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs at -130, and Tanner Houck over 4.5 Ks at -133. I do want to remind everyone, I think Mr. Big said it earlier in the chat, we've got the college football preview show, which is just such an excellent show. Obviously, tomorrow we have the NFL show as well. College football week 4 preview today at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on CBS Sports Network. Again, that's at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So much football coming up, particularly in the middle of the week. We'll have our early ed show tomorrow at 10 in the morning, which we'll talk some Thursday night football among other stuff, including baseball, soccer, you name it. But then we have FFT DFS at 11 o'clock. After that, you're going to have the NFL preview show on CBS Sports Network after that. And of course, the primetime show for Thursday night football at 7:15 after that. So you had a little bit of football today. You have a lot more football on the network at 1 o'clock for college football, and then a lot of NFL and other stuff on the network tomorrow and on this channel. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being in here. Thanks for hitting the like button. Thanks for all your participation and questions in the chat. On behalf of Propstarz, Amags, the Guru, Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. I'm the Counselor of Cash. This is the Early Edge. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. We rest our case.